Oh, you may have had to answer this question on several occasions already, but I'd like to address it here so more people know. When can we expect Sasuke on DVD?
That's a big question. I don't think I have the answer to that. I actually did a petition. I did that about 3 or 4 years ago. And again, time kind of disappears the longer you do this.
Yeah.
And it took about a year to finally talk to M9. Now, in retrospect, you can see all of the stuff that was going on in the background. They were, trying to stop the bleeding. But their answer back then was they did not want to do DVDs while the show was running because they were still selling the show overseas and wanted that to still be relevant. Here in the U.S., it's different. We show, seasons 1 through 5, and then season 6 is on the air. They don't do that in Japan. They wait till the whole thing's over. Takeshi's Castle, MXC, their DVDs didn't come out until the show was gone.
Yeah.
So, I would have to ask TBS again if I could even get an answer. I probably won't try it for another year, though.
Yeah.
But I think once the show's done, if at all, because the big issue, the difference between that and Takeshi's Castle is music rights. How much music was used that they would have to pay the rights for 15 years worth of music every single tournament. That's a lot of money. Think about it. Heck, third stage song for Dakida was from the movie Pearl Harbor. How much you want to pay Sony for that?
Fuck.
Exactly.
Screw Sony, man. They're the money-grubbing whores.
The point being is that the difference between Takeshi's Castle being able to do a quick DVD out of it and something like Sasuke, that's also one of the reasons why I prefer that over the Ninja Warrior version, because if you notice, the Ninja Warrior version doesn't even have any of the music.
Mm-hmm.
None of it. And so, in SMF every once in a while, just for the hell of it, we would put on the theme song, and somebody that can identify it the fastest, two bars of the song, we know, oh, that's Nagato's theme song. Yeah. Oh, that's that one. The heck, we have fun trying to identify half the stuff because they never say what it is, and then we find something, we're like, yeah, everybody's downloading it or buying the album. I actually buy the albums because I like supporting the artists, but that's just me.
Wow.
But, I'm a soundtrack freak, so...
Yeah, I have a couple soundtracks, like, by John Williams, like, Indiana Jones and stuff like that, classical stuff they use on Sasuke. But I've never thought of that before. Like, the source music that they put into the broadcast, you're right, if that was on DVD, you would have to pay for the rights of all the songs. And they're roughly... it's been 15 years of Sasuke, and that's a lot of source music to buy the rights for, so that worries me.
I remember when I was still into So You Think You Can Dance, they had released the DVD for the first season. They could not do the second. Under any circumstances, they could not do the second. And they did the third and fourth, or whatever. I'm sure somebody can correct me. And somebody had asked, why not? And I said, because we had one song from Justin Timberlake. We couldn't afford the rights. Because they would have to pay for the rights of every single DVD they reproduced. So if the run was 3,000 of these DVDs for So You Think You Can Dance, they had to pay for the song 3,000 times. So now, go back to Sasuke. How many competitors are there that they show with actual theme songs? It runs from Naruto to U.S. Movie Hollywood music, to Korean music, to stock footage. When they buy in television, when they buy music rights, like TBS has a blanket of time that they can do things. So they'll buy all the soundtracks of like Naruto that they can use in their broadcast because it's only going to be shown once. They do not do rebroadcast. I think they've only done it like once, and even then it was heavily edited.
Yeah.
But they pay it for a certain amount of time, and we can use it under that five for 6-year window, or even as little as 3 years. Once that's done, that's the last time that they can use it, or they'd have to do pay for that again. That's a lot cheaper than having to reproduce something that somebody's going to physically own in some other country. So
Yeah.
it's a lot of money. So I at this point, I'm not even sure we'll ever see a DVD. It pains me because I want a DVD in the worst way. I much prefer it
I
that
know.
way. I don't even care if it's subtitled, quite honestly.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's going to happen just because of the music.
I agree. And it sucks because, you know, we don't even have physical copies of Sasuke, the original Sasuke's 1, 2, and 3. And, yeah, it's, you know, they get taken down often. In fact, my Emotional Sasuke Moments Part 4 video, because of the music, it matched third-party content. And, but, yeah, that's pretty legitimate answer. Like, I appreciate that. I mean, I had no idea. I never even thought about, like, how much money they would have to spend to even release them.
We'll see. I mean, like I said, I'll try next year to ask them again. If there is a Sasuke next year.
Yeah.
But, you know, that's a financial thing that they're going to have to take. If the amount of money that they can make will outweigh how much it costs to produce it, that may change their mind as well.
Yeah.
The bigger it gets overseas, and it is getting a lot bigger, like by a lot. I think that the more time passes, they might actually relent on that. And quite frankly, the answer that I had gotten was from M9, and M9's gone. So.
Oh, really?
Well, yeah. Well, the band, you know, Monster 9's gone. Like, there's nobody left. They've already liquidated all the assets. They've been gone since March. Gotta love bankruptcy.
Yeah.
And they were not bankruptcy to, what's the phrase, where basically they go out for a while and then come back. I mean, they're gone. All their assets are gone. So that's it. TBS now owns Sasuke 100%.
Well, I'll have to stop putting Sasuke as the property of TBS and Monster 9 at the end of my videos.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, depending on the footage that you're using would be correct. To this point, this would be the very first one that you don't do that anymore. But yeah.
Okay. Check. So TBS, they've been airing Sasuke for how many years now?
15.
Yeah. That's incredible.
One, I think, was 1997.
Yeah, I mean, that's amazing because they've had, you know, a number of drops in ratings, and the departure of Kane Kasugi meant they lost someone who was at the time the face of Sasuke, and
he was the face of Japan television from what eBay was telling me. I remember him as the son of Sho Kasugi, which is, you know, I grew up on the Ninja Boom well before you were born. Sorry, like late 1970s, early 80s, everybody knew who Sho was. And then I grew up watching Kane in, you know, after school specials and stuff like that because he did his own little movies but in Japan he was bigger than his father by a lot. Even to this day, you still see him in commercials. He used to face the Century 21. He's done some other, you know, commercials so people can see what he looks like. And he was the face of Sasuke 1. That was the star.
Yeah.
So people that followed those 8 tournaments, which would have been approximately 4 years, all of a sudden he's gone, they went with him. And there was a substantial drop. And then that was when TBS was scrambling to try to figure out what to do and then created the Sasuke All-Stars because, quite frankly, they could not get somebody of Kane's caliber to consistently be on the show. I mean, you had a couple big people and Olympians and whatever, but they were not somebody, a go-to person, especially at that time where Kane was also Sportsman #1, and he was the face of, I mean, he was basically, you know, Mr. Monster 9. I laugh when they call Yamada Mr. Sasuke, and I'm like, not really. Well, considering that he was also in Banzuke, so do we call him Mr. Banzuke Sasuke as well? I don't know. It just depends on the time of day. But, you know.
Yeah.
So that's
and still, you know, the show has survived all these different endeavors, but I have a big question for you, and that is, like, what do you think it would take? Like, I think both of us can elaborate on this. And anyone, if you're watching this, you can post a comment. What do you think it would take for TBS to finally say, we're done, and officially end Sasuke?
Twofold. One is the ratings either stay the same or drop even worse, which would be, they're already at single digits. Their market is Japan. If Japan is just basically spitting it right back out, there's no point. They will not be able to get enough advertisers to offset the price to build it. They have to build that set whether somebody gets to the fourth stage or not. They still have to pay for people to come in, and I think that's one of the main reasons why they're changing the format. That's less people they have to pay for. You know, airfare and whatever, because you'll have all of the different companies that are tied to the spin-offs paying their way to fly to Japan. They no longer would have to deal with, you know, I have to fly this person and put that person in a hotel and whatever. So it makes it cheaper that way. The other thing is how much money they're making off their spin-offs. Which one is the more profitable venture? Doing a show that nobody in Japan is watching, or just sitting back and collecting cash from something like A&W that has consistently 6 million people watching. You know, so it's going to be, I honestly believe it's going to be a numbers game. This TV is never about emotion. You know,
Yeah.
you know, we freak out and cry, oh my God, they're gone and whatever. But TV is, I mean, I'm surprised that this lasted as long as it has.
Me
I
too.
mean, here in the U.S., you get under a certain percentage, you're gone. Because you can't make money off of something that nobody's watching. So when it finally hits them that they cannot milk this thing anymore, is when they're finally going to call it. And we won't have this is the end of Sasuke episode. Yubei reminds us many, many times that they just disappear. You just never see it again. You'll just see well, are we going to get anything? Are we getting anything? And we just sit there hanging. You know, I was the only time that I thought 28 was even going to happen, especially after a 9 going down, was somebody said, no, we're still trying. We don't know anything past 28. 28 is basically the big last hope for the show. For all we know, that could be the end of it. It really depends if anybody's going to swallow this new format. In Japan, worldwide, it doesn't net them anything. If nothing else, it just solidifies the spin-off space. You know, if US does well, then great, keep doing US shows. A&W was a huge gamble. Specifically 4 was a huge gamble. There was no trip to Japan at the end. And you still had how many thousands of people entering that show?
I think it was the biggest ever.
Yeah, well, each year it keeps going because as the reach gets higher and people know more of it, and because it's so easily accessible, like that's, again, one of the reasons why we like Sasuke to begin with, is you can do it.
Yeah.
Okay, you want to show up? Go ahead. You know, put your application in, you get accepted and whatever. In fact, this was the first time we actually had quite a few people that thought they were in the show, and then they didn't because they weren't invited because there were so many people, and that's usually how casting goes. And it's going to get worse because it just hit network television. Like them, hate them, or whatever. That was network. You can be on TV. And you'll have the people that just want to be on TV to do that. So, and Japan's well over that. Again, it's been on for 15 years. A&W, 3. And First Time Network, 1. So it's still new here. It's old in Japan. So once Japan knows it's pretty much milked it for all it's worth, they're just going to quietly go away.
Yeah. I think Sasuke 28 will be okay.
I don't know. I think so, only because I'm biased towards the All-Stars, and the All-Stars will be there.
Yeah.
I don't know about 29. I'll get a good glimpse of what it is that they're planning for 28 at the same time.
Yeah.
We don't know if they'll turn around and completely change their train of thought after seeing what happens with 28. So you still have people going in to see the All-Stars, and then you have the new format being quietly introduced. Because remember what happened with Sasuke 25. 25, as you call it, the tournament that shall not be named.
Yeah, nobody watched it for whatever reason.
Well, that was also no stars. There was nothing there.
There was nobody. Like, in 26, they tried to make up for it by having Naruto. And, you know, he's big on TV series, and they kept referencing the other shows he was in and stuff.
Naruto.
Yeah.
Naot. Yeah, he's from Exile.
Yeah, Exile. Sorry.
Or he's also from J-Soul. They're an offshoot, and I'm sure Yube can give me the entire list of all the stuff that he's attached to. But then again, also TBS had just started a show with them. They have a weekly show. So that was a mutually beneficial thing to have him there.
Yeah, and also...
But that didn't work all that well either.
Yeah. Overexposure, too. That's what brought the ratings down big time.
Yeah,
on 24, 25-ish, because at the time 24 and 25 came out 3 months after each other, normally, as opposed to 6 months. And so what they do after Sasuke 25, they allowed about 9 months until they had another Sasuke. So, and it's even longer for this one, 27 to 28. It's been almost... They taped in July, and they aired in October, and now they're airing the next one about a full year after, so...
Yeah, this is the longest by far.
Yeah, this is pretty long, but...
we understand the extenuating circumstances that went with that.
Yeah, like, I sincerely hope they don't overexpose themselves again, because, like, people aren't always going to be in the mood to watch another Sasuke 3 months after the last one was shown.
They actually had pretty good ratings by comparison for 24, and I don't believe it had anything to do with the fact that somebody had won, because they already spoiled that in all the commercials.
Mm-hmm.
They loved that. But just the nature of how people watch television in Japan, specifically during the New Year's season, our season's very different on how we do New Year's. They celebrate it for like 3 or 4 days, and a good portion of the time you go see your family. And after the first day, you're all tired of each other, and then the rest of it, you just sit and watch TV for 3 days. And there's an obscene amount of channel flipping, and Sasuke has that type of thing where you can just sit and watch. It's constantly new because there's new people there, and you get to watch all the funny people, and as they like it, they stay on, and that's what the ratings kept showing, that they consistently, which is the reason why it was 5 hours long. I don't think they're going to have a 5 hours long. I think they're going to probably stop around 4 again.
Yeah.
But still, it was that lended itself during that time of year. I don't know if they can do that twice. I don't know. We may see a Sasuke once a year. Because if the format is to have the trials from each country, that would benefit. You would have a spring or summer, probably summer set of trials with all these countries, and then tape in October, November, and then air in December. And they'll always have a New Year's show. Last year was the very first time they had no Banzuke type show in over 20 years. Because the Sportsman #1 and Banzuke, which preceded Sasuke by quite a few years, was always on during that time of year. Sportsman #1 was always on for 20 years in that time slot. And it actually made their news. It's the first time in 20 years that TBS has not shown a Banzuke type show. And so I don't know if people missed it. And we'll find out this season if people missed it. Because there was quite a bit of chatter. Wait, there's no Sasuke, there's no Sportsman, there's nothing. Where are they? So hopefully that translates to people wanting to see it. So we'll see. And if they see it, whether or not they'll like it to come back for 29. So, I don't know. I usually say cautiously optimistic, but I'm just too emotionally attached to the All-Stars, so I'm not sure what 29 is going to look like. The jury is still out. How's that? And I have to, again, I agree with everybody on SMF. I have to see 28 to see the direction that they're going. And I don't know. They might change their minds. They might just say, oh, backlash be damned, here we go. Is this the one that you're going to have to swallow it? Or they'll just go, okay, thank you for watching, thank you for the 15 years, that'll be all. We don't know. I mean, they haven't even mentioned 29. We're making an assumption based on what's going on now. I know that they're trying, they took a lot to try to get this one done. So, I don't know. I can think they're going to look at their spreadsheets and figure out how much money they're getting overseas over domestic and then make a financial decision that way.
Yeah. Okay, well, are you ready for the send-off question?
Yeah. People are tired of hearing my voice.
It's alright. Well, what do you think makes Sasuke different from any other community of fans?
The collective camaraderie. That's one thing that, when I compared it to A&W, the spirit was very different, except with the hardcore. The Sasuke group is very tight. We may disagree, scream at each other and whatever, but end of the day, when they're on the start line, we're cheering and screaming like mad, going, you go, come on, whatever. And even going through all of the jumps and hoops of A&W with, the Comcast /NBC /G4 setup, we still have an emotional attachment to the people. And ultimately, that's what makes the show. In other shows, even like as an example, like Survivor, those types of shows, Fear Factor, you don't have a personal connection, or you spend more time trying to figure out who's the one you want to hate the most. You don't get that in Sasuke. And because you don't get that in Sasuke, its people are different. They're more sharing, I had that over the summer. I had 2 people go on vacation on their own to Japan, not together, but 2 completely different people. And the first thing that they did was send me a picture of themselves with my name on it. They took me with them to Japan to meet the Sasuke stars. Matt Eisman did that for me. You don't have that. Or, I'm going to go meet Brad Pitt. You don't put up a sign to somebody else that you've never met before. Nobody's ever met me in real life. So that alone is a microcosm of the Sasuke community. Oh, such and such is gonna like me, like it. I went to such and such and I saw that person. Or, hey, I met Ryan Stratus, totally cool guy and whatever. And we talked about this and we talked about that. You don't get that from other shows. So inherently, it's different. We're closer as a group because our attachment to the show is more personal, at least in my opinion. Something like Survivor, you're attached to the system. You like the system. Its people are irreplaceable. You can change, or replaceable, I should say. You can change out each season. There's never the same person twice. Sasuke is different. You follow their journey over years. Some of them you see get married. Some of them get divorced, have kids, retire, whatever. You don't get that long exposure of time with people where you build a sense of community. The other ones are, what's on for this season, or what obstacles is this? Wipeout. How many people do you know personally from Wipeout? Exactly. Name one. They're gone the next tournament. Sasuke's different. You see their lives better, and the more you get attached, the more people get attached as well, because there's the community's different. It's just, they're closer that way, and they share their experience better than in any other obsession, as I like calling it,
yeah,
that I've ever been in. Whether it's almost closer to a sports team, because it's not even like an Olympics type thing either. It's like you have your personal favorites on this team and whatever. Actually, no, it's not. It is different because each sports team goes against the other sports team. You don't get that in Sasuke. It's always against the obstacles. So each person is not fighting another person to get to whatever. Does that make sense? You don't,
yeah, it makes perfect sense.
Going to the first stage, he doesn't have to knock out Takeda to get there. that
Yeah,
automatically changes things, which is the reason why I think a lot of people freaked out with Kunoichi 8. You had 4 people fighting to get 2 spots to get to the next round. That's why the ratings dropped.
yeah, and it also wasn't particularly good for American Ninja Warriors boot camp either. They had teams,
Oh,
and
my
yeah,
skin crawls when I think of boot camp. I feel bad. I gotta give a lot of credit to its individual competitors, because the competitors proved the Sasuke spirit despite the format that they were forced to go through.
hmm
While, NBC is trying to actually, no, at that point, it was G4, and G4 was doing everything that they can to try to make drama, artificial drama, and everybody's just like, dude, we're all friends, what the hell?
yeah,
And again, that speaks to the community, how close they are, because the enemy is not each other, it's the obstacles, and you don't get that in any other show. So that's why the community is different, because the show itself is different, what the focus is, which leads me to why I'm terrified of Sasuke 29. Because it is now, you have to knock out X person just to get on the show. Before it wasn't like that. And I blame A&W for that.
hmm
But, yeah, I'm beating a dead horse at this point.
it's gonna be all right. 29 won't. It's not gonna melt faces. It's not gonna be. I just know it. Like, I don't want you to worry about anything.
My hope is this, because I've had this discussion ad nauseum with quite a number of people, and what's interesting is that when I was writing on the blog about my experience with the Sasuke All-Stars in terms of why I like them, because I've never met any of them, physically. But what it is that I'm going to hate about them leaving is the fact that if the format stays true, I will not have the opportunity of following a specific person or a group of people, like, the Unlimited Cliffers, the Rios, the Yujis before he was famous.
Yeah.
If you ask TBS, he's probably not famous. But I don't know if TBS is going to want to spend time to let us know who these people are. And I'm not wanting the format of A&W where it was half obstacle, half fluff piece either. I want the experience of time to let me know who these people are rather than a fluff piece every 5 seconds. I don't think TBS is going to invest itself to let us know who these people are, especially if there's a revolving door. So if you're constantly trials, the only way you're going to know these people is by watching the spin-offs. Well, we have clear access to A&W. Do you know anybody else that was in Sasuke Singapore? Or Sasuke Malaysia? Or even Europe? Are we even going to even see that? So the first time we're going to see them is going to be in Sasuke. Do we even know who they are? We probably won't. And then once we get to know them, if they don't qualify again, we may never see them again. So again, the format change, I'm not confident that TBS is going to give us enough time to be able to have those attachments. Heck, I followed Rio for 3 years before he even passed the first stage. Yuji, we followed from Sasuke Maniac 4 years ago, and he failed in Sasuke Maniac, the trials, and he won by some small show out in Yamada's prefecture that was actually a show for Volkswagen Beetles called Bug and Mickey. That they built this little mock course, and he beat the All-Stars on it, and that's how he got in the show.
Wow.
Again, that's going back 4 years. But that was his start. But we followed those people. TBS gave us that opportunity in that little show. Well, they got rid of the show. After that, nobody knew who the hell these people were. Heck, G4 didn't even know half the time. They're like, this is the first time he's been there, and he's gone to the first stage. No, he's been there 3 times. Because if they don't even see, how is the normal, casual, non-psycho person like myself going to get attached to these people? You see whatever is put in front of you. If you take no time to want to learn who these people are, there's not going to be an attachment. That's why the loss of the All-Stars is going to be huge, not just because of them, but the implications on what the rest of this tournament is going to feel like. They're not going to want to deal with spending a lot of time on no-name people that they don't even know if they're going to be there in the next tournament. So that's my fear for 29 specifically. They have to make Yuji go. Oh, I mean, you won the thing twice. Why are you putting him through auditions again? If that doesn't give you the magnitude of the change that they're doing there's no free pass anymore. So if you get all the way to the final, hell, if you win it, that doesn't mean you're going to the next tournament. So why should we be, by that account, why should we be attached to Yuji? He might not be there the next tournament. And that's the difference between old Sasuke and new Sasuke. That's why I keep saying new format.
You're awesome.
What?
It's good. Yeah, it went well beyond the question. Yeah.
Okay. As usual, it's...
In a good way. In a good way.
I'm not being Rambling Rican for nothing.
Yeah, I'll put up a warning at the beginning of the video.
And I'm sure a lot of people would put TLDR.
Yeah. I don't get that reference.
Didn't read.
Yeah. Oh.
This is ramble. Yeah, that's Rambling Rican. For the record, I'm not some 50-year-old guy. I could not believe... Who was the one that said that?
Is this somebody talking on the forum again?
Yeah, I think it was Mike Bernardo. Mike Bernardo said he had gone... I think it was him, and forgive me if I got the person incorrect. They had gone to Warrior Lab up in Jersey, which is actually a good 15 minutes from where I live. But they had gone up to Warrior Lab, and they were all having a discussion about the nebulous Arsenette, who this person is. And it's like, dude, it's probably some 50-year-old guy with this creepy obsession for Japanese men. Like, horrified. No, I'm a 40-year-old married woman. What the hell? I could prove it. And then the only way I could have proved it was somebody, William from Mind of a Crazy Person.
Yeah.
Two Sasuke pre-shows and actually Skyped my voice. So I hope I don't sound like some 50-year-old man.
This is the first time I heard your voice, and was it the first time anyone heard it?
Yes. Unless I had befriended them to the point where I gave them my phone number. That list I like being very small.
Yeah.
No offense, I just keep that list very small. Still in the age of the internet. And the identity thing, and I don't know, call me old-fashioned, I get a little with that. Which is why you don't see a picture of my face. Besides, I think my face was made for radio, if you can catch that reference.
Well, I'm just really thankful to have been born in an age where I could grow up with the internet. Because, yeah, nobody would know who I was if it wasn't for it.
Even 4 years ago, making the blog, that's a really good example of how far we have gone with even Sasuke. We had Keyhole, that's basically a glorified PowerPoint presentation, because that video is not at all stable when you're watching the tournament.
Yeah.
And you had, a little screen caps. We couldn't record off of that thing, and then we tried Cam Studio, and that crapped out, and then all of a sudden, what's this? You can actually get the video online, and it doesn't look like crap.
Yep.
In just 4 years, that's how far we've gotten. And we've had thousands of people watching the live streams, and before it was just a couple hundred, if they can get the thing to not crash on them. Just, the power of the internet.
Yeah.
And Sasuke community has grown because of that. It's not because of TBS, because TBS doesn't do any rebroadcast. G4 decides to wait 6 to 9 months before even showing their version of it.
Yeah.
So.
But thankfully Jet TV rebroadcasts Sasuke.
Well,
very sparingly, though.
Do they still do that?
I'm not sure, but a year ago, yeah, they rebroadcast Sasuke 18, and
Oh
but
wow!
yeah, I'm not
But
even
that's
sure.
still, yeah. I I still hope, beyond hope, that we end up getting a DVD. It's probably going to be a little too late to even. I mean, I don't think there is a quote unquote saving Sasuke in Japan. It's just basically hanging on to what it is that we have now.
Yeah, I may just have to watch my video files that I downloaded of Sasuke for the rest of my early years.
Someone actually did a huge favor for me where they actually sent me 16 through 23, I think, on DVD, their collection. And, I mean, it's off of like a VHS tape, but I still watch that every once in a while. And my husband goes, "What are you doing?" It's like, "I'm watching Sasuke." And it's like, "You're crazy." Well, I burn out anything, any anime that I buy. I do marathons in one night. I have my Sasuke marathons because it's still fun, even if I don't understand it. Well, scary part is when you start understanding Japanese. Done so much, it's like, oh, this is bad.
Yeah, I took Japanese back in freshman year of like just going to college, and I got an F.
Wow. The thing that I've always told is that don't pay too much attention to anime Japanese because that is all slang. And if I have in a conversation with somebody, they're not going to know what the hell you're talking about. So that's unfortunately the extent of my Japanese. And plus, whatever I can identify the Sasuke All-Stars names in their kanji because of all of the Google searches I've ever had to do. So I start looking at, the end of, a TV show or whatever, and I'm like, okay, that's Yama, that's Da, that's River, that would be Kawa. And my husband's looking at me like, what the hell? And I'm like, 4 years of Googling stuff, you have no idea. So that's kind of scary. So, anyway, I'm going to keep on rambling, so go ahead and wrap up.
Arsenette, aka Rambling Rican, everyone. Good night.
Good night, thanks.